Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Gina Creson, who's a real estate agent and owner of Southern Grace Homes. Gina, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Hey, I'm looking forward to talking with you because it's always neat to hear people's perspectives on their industry. And I want to learn all about how you started your company and what the focus is. But give us a little bit of your background and what your entrepreneurial journey has been like to this point in your career.
Wow, that's a lot, probably. It's been a long journey, it feels like.
Yep.
I think that I do this... My career, I feel like, is my God-given career. I do this because I love it. It's so exciting to be able to lead people to achieve their dreams. So yes. It just kind of is a nice fit for me. I was a single mom, and I was in the process of buying a home and was told by the salesperson, it was encouraged to go ahead and get my real estate license and start my journey. So that's what I did. I went to work for the builder in 2001, and I guess the rest is history.
Yeah. and did they mention that to you just from just the way that you showed some interest in real estate or the process? What was it that sparked your interest? Because I know, a lot of times people might just buy a house and they go live in the house and that's it. They don't have the desire to get into the industry.
Yeah, I guess, they made it look easy. They made the process enjoyable. And, just my desire to fit people with a need and, not fit people with a need, but to feel that need.
Yes.
And so it was just it just seemed, the more they talked about it, the more encouraged I was to take the journey. And again, so glad I did.
Yes. So do you work with buyers only, sellers only? Is it a good mix of clients that you serve?
Yeah, actually it has. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of different niches. I've been fortunate enough to work on teams that had their own focus. So there would be times that we were focused on maybe foreclosure sales, and another team that I was on, we did like high-end clients, professionals. So I got a taste of kind of the luxury market. And because of that journey, I feel like I've had the opportunity to do a lot of different things, and it's made my business today be that really mixture of buyers and sellers. I have found that I tend to mostly work comfortably with sellers who are looking to right-size their home. So that's another niche that I found myself in by working for a real estate team that was situated outside of an active adult community. So that focus on the active adult lifestyle.
Did you say how to right-size the home?
Yeah, I like the term
what was that, right-size
better than I do.
Yeah, that's unique.
Yeah, I like that term better than downsizing, because downsizing can tend to have maybe a negative, like you're giving something up, but you're really not. When you make this unique move, you're gaining so much. And so I've enjoyed walking people through that process. It's complicated. It's probably the most complicated move, but it's been a joy to me to serve people in that way.
So, I love the kind of like I kind of tongue in cheek say to my kids when we go play badminton in the backyard, oh, let's go play goodminton, because we don't want to do anything bad. We want to play goodminton. But I like that, downsize. Yeah, we know what downsizing is, but right sizing, it's the right fit for you. But what you said that it's complicated. What are some of the things that make right sizing complicated?
Well, typically, if you make, if this is something you're considering, it's such a change that you may be hesitant to even take the step. So that's complicated. It's an emotional type move because you're letting go of maybe you have lived in your current home for 20, 30 years, raised your kids, played badminton in the backyard.
Yep.
And so there's memories and a lot of things tied to that. So that's what makes this an even more complicated move. You probably are at a point in your life where you've accumulated a lot of possessions and sorting through and deciding what to take with you to this new lifestyle. That's a whole nother complication. And just determining again what size is right for you. Do you still need all that square footage, and how do you mentally transition to a new space with less square footage?
That's an interesting point, because when you are right sizing or downsizing or upsizing for that matter, your family's growing, so you need to upsize to get a bigger house. Or your family, maybe you're an empty nester now and you need to right size. There's an emotional aspect there, and I think that is a lot of times people don't recognize that, like, oh, the kids are gone, and we lived in our other house for 20 years, and I remember when they had the swing set in the backyard. So when you're able to then serve your clients, like you said, it's your God-given purpose in this kind of business, boy, when you can serve them emotionally, and I would suspect that that's such a strong connection that you're able to make with your clients.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And I have done this process myself. So I get it. I get the struggles. I've walked that journey, and it's, again, an honor just to be able to help them do the same, because I know the good that's on the other side. I know that when they can sort through their belongings and go through the pain, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it's a little bit painful.
Sure.
But then when you get to the new space and you're lighter and you're freer and you have more time, your possessions are no longer weighing you down, or the square footage no longer needs to be cleaned, and the yard no longer needs to be, raked. And the freedom, the feeling of that freedom is amazing.
And it all is potentially enhanced by understanding the process and knowing what to expect. I think a lot of times it's like, hey, listen, it's going to feel normal to feel this way. This is the way, what to expect. And I think then when they get to that, it's like, oh, yeah, Gina said I was going to experience that. Okay, so that it's kind of a neat way to kind of be their guide through that, to go, been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and let me tell you how you can navigate through these steps.
Absolutely. That's so true. If you're going to have surgery, you want, as you're preparing for surgery, you're thinking about, how am I going to feel? And if the doctor says it's going to be uncomfortable for this number of days, then you can kind of have some assurance that, oh, he's the expert. He knows. He said I'll be uncomfortable a few days, and so it is so critical to have someone who knows the path and can lay that out for you and then walk it with you.
So let's talk a little bit about that path for buyers. So when you work, and I'm sure you work with buyers and sellers and investors, but let's focus a little bit here on buyers. What are some of the things they need to have in place before they come to see you for a purchase? And then what are some of the steps in that process?
Oh, great. Yeah. So you do need to be prepared. This is going to be your biggest purchase ever. Anytime you purchase a home, it's typically your largest purchase. So it has to be handled with a lot of care. Most people, what you're going to need to do to get ready is obviously to have your finances in order, and maybe not even as, what does that mean? What does that look like? And some people can think that that's a big task list, but then it might not be as complicated. So you always want to bring in a professional. And I have a team of amazing lenders that I can fit you with if you are a buyer, and they're going to be able to help you understand the process, to not just get you pre-approved for a loan. That's number one, but to also look at your whole financial situation and say, maybe you don't want to go ahead and pay that credit card off. Maybe you hold on to that, and instead we do this. And so I think that's someone that I love having on my team, is that can look at a whole financial picture and advise my clients, because everything does connect. So while you're making this biggest purchase, your finances also are still out there. There's other aspects to your financing that needs to be considered as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the more clients you work with and the more unique situations that come up that you experience with the client, that becomes then great content to teach the next client. Oh, hey, I had this client once where
Absolutely.
we, whatever that was, like, should I pay that credit card off? There's probably pros and cons to that. The pro might be you pay it off, and by the time you then go in for approval, maybe your credit score bumped up because now there's a lower balance. And so there's all of those kinds of things that you need to say, well, if you paid that off, here's what could be a benefit. But if you pay it off and now you've got the cash that was in your checking account now paid off the credit card, and we need money for closing costs. So there's that balance. And I think, having that guide that has been there and done that and knows what the next step is, and kind of like playing chess, when you make a move and you keep your finger on it, you kind of look around, okay, do I want to make this move? And then, okay, yeah, I do. Now I'm going to take my finger off. So that's a great way to think of it too.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the kind of pitfalls that you typically see when you're working with a buyer that you help them to see ahead of time and avoid?
Well, I think, it's always emotional. I go back to that. And so it's a matter of, again, preparing them that this is how they're going to feel, and, to understand the emotions that they're going through, and to manage those, I guess. So that can be one of the pitfalls if you don't know that it's okay to be feeling that way. So buyers, at any stage, anytime you're purchasing a home, it's a bit scary. It can be scary, and there can be some regret, some remorse, and some fear, like, oh my gosh, am I doing the right thing? Because it seems so permanent, but really, it's not permanent. Most people move every 3 years. So it's a matter of finding, the right thing for the right moment. And I always encourage my buyers to not put so much weight around that decision. And that's what I try to tell them. This is most likely not your forever home. Very rarely does someone live in one spot forever. Mm-hmm. So, you don't have to foresee everything and every need right now. Just think about today and kind of just take a little bit of the pressure off. So I think that's one way I'm able to help and to just make this an easier, less stress-free process for them.
That's really an interesting perspective because, I'm really big into personal development and, life coaching and goals and achieving better things and all of that. And one of the things that I remember, what you said reminded me of something where they go, oh, you're fearful about this thing that could happen. Well, let's recognize that. And let's talk about what's the very worst that could happen if that actually did happen. And then by the time that you're thinking through, talking through that, it's like, oh, well, it's really not that awfully bad. I mean, if it did happen, then I just have to do, okay, cool. Well, in your example there, it's like, okay, don't get all bunched up about all these many decisions, because this house probably, even if it's not your forever, dream home for decades, it's not going to ruin anything. You're going to live here, and 3 to 5 years down the road, you're going to move to the next one for whatever reason. And so it's not life altering. Now, make wise decisions, and I'll help you through that. But that's a neat frame of mind to make sure people are thinking that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything can be fixed, anything. And the same aspect of, if they get fixated on maybe the house doesn't have a yard. Well, that, or doesn't have a fence yard, let's say. Well, obviously that, okay, we can add a fence, and just to help them understand that truly anything can be overcome.
Yep.
I haven't found anything yet that couldn't be. So.
Yep, exactly. So let's think about this. Working with buyers and working with sellers. You hear the phrase seller's market, and depending on what part of the country that anyone is in, it could be a seller's market, could be a buyer's market, and the day after tomorrow it could flip flop and change. So it always is ebbs and flows. But talk a little bit about what a seller's market is, and then how can buyers succeed in a seller's market.
Yeah, so the seller's market is when there is not very much inventory available. So buyers are willing to overlook some inequities in a property, and the seller, therefore, in the seller's market, the seller has the upper hand. Yes. Plain and simple, the seller can command the terms typically. So the way a buyer can win in that is, number one, to know it, understand it, and accept it. So you can't fight against what it is. The truth is the sellers do hold the cards at this time. And if you want to enter the game, then you're going to have to be okay with that being the scenario. Ways they can win, again, just like we talked about, being prepared financially and making sure that you not only have your loan in place, but in a seller's market, you're going to have a little more capital or cash on hand to work with. And there's ways that you can apply that within structuring an offer and a deal that would be appealing to a seller, that they would accept your offer as the buyer. Again, sometimes though, there are times that sellers don't want just money. Time is also important to sellers. So maybe if the buyer has some flexibility in their personal situation, if they have an extended lease or a month-to-month lease they're currently in, or whatever they're selling, wherever they're coming from, if they have some flexibility and can afford that flexibility forward to the seller, then that is also another way to win in a seller's market, meaning giving them maybe your offer says, hey, we'll close on the May 30th, the last day of the month, but we'll give you until June 5th to move out for free. You can take some time. And so time can also be a way that you could win in the deal.
It's kind of like as an employer, the employees, you got to pay them a fair wage, but sometimes what will motivate them is not necessarily a bonus, but it might be time. Hey, if you achieve this goal, we're going to give you 3 days, extra off this month. And now that motivates them way more than that little extra bump in a bonus pay. So having the right realtor like yourself to watch for, listen for opportunities in hearing from the seller or the other agent, what is motivating them, and then making recommendations to your buyer to go, okay, let's make the offer this way and let's structure in this. Now that could make your offer get accepted that much easier.
Absolutely. We've offered things like doing a professional move out cleaned for the sellers, so that once they get all their things out, they don't have to worry about cleaning. And there's things that you can throw in to sweeten the deal. And yes, it is. You touched on the absolute right thing, is you've got to communicate. So I always spend a lot of time behind the scenes building rapport with other agents, so that when we are negotiating, we can still find some win-wins that work best for both our clients. And the more you can communicate, the better off you can serve both sides. And at the end of the day, that's what you want, is for all parties to be happy.
Exactly. Well, Gina, it's been so great talking with you. So if someone listening to this is interested in connecting with you and Southern Grace Homes, what's the best way they can reach out, learn more, and connect with you?
Yeah, great. So number one, I could be reached via phone or text at 803-322-4473. And I always love those good old-fashioned phone calls too. So I make it my goal to answer every call that I can on the first ring. And then you can check me out on my website too, which is www.southerngracehomes.net. So I'd love to connect. I'd love to hear from anybody.
Excellent. Well, Gina, thank you so much for coming on today. It was a real pleasure talking with you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.